The boy was only 12 years old, drowning in red Fs, while his billionaire father called him incompetent and prepared to ship him off to boarding school. No private tutor, no expert had managed to help him. That's when Isabella, the new housekeeper, walked in and noticed what no one else had seen. She had fought this silent battle herself once and carried with her the method her late mother had used to save her. Gradually, she began to unlock what the world had overlooked, and when the test results came back, the entire mansion was stunned. Before we go further, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us share even more powerful stories. Stay with us until the end, and if this story touches you, leave your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Let's begin. It all started with paper, crumpled paper, abandoned in the corners of a room too large for a 12-year-old boy. Test sheets covered his desk like broken promises, each one marked with red ink, bold Fs that hurt more than any scolding. The boy was slumped in a mahogany chair, his pencil gripped too tightly in his fingers. His blonde hair, usually arranged by his governess, hung heavily over his forehead as he tried once again to write the words in front of him. But the letters refused to stay in place. They flipped, danced, slipped off the page until they became something else. The mansion buzzed with wealth, marble floors that echoed, chandeliers that never flickered, the smell of polished wood mixed with expensive perfume. And yet, in all this luxury, the boy felt tiny, trapped by failure. His father's voice was the sharpest in the house, a man whose empire rested on contracts and skyscrapers with no patience for weakness. Standing in the doorway, he held the test paper like evidence in court. His words hurt more than the grade itself. Incompetent, that's what this is. Incompetent. The boy didn't cry. He was used to that tone, the sighs of disappointment, the staff looking down when he passed, perhaps whispering that the son wasn't cut from the same cloth as the father. That evening, near the dining room, 2 staff members whispered while clearing the table. Another private tutor gave up. Did you hear? Rich people think money buys intelligence. Poor child, he looks lost. But when they spotted the boy appearing on the staircase, they fell silent immediately, pretending to busy themselves with the silverware. The father's solution was already taking shape. He had tried private tutors from abroad, notebooks filled with expensive programs. Nothing had worked. His patience was exhausted. Maybe boarding school will straighten him out, he murmured to his assistant. A place where failure isn't tolerated. The boy heard those words. They echoed louder than the click of the assistant's pen. Boarding school to him wasn't just a new place. It was exile, the place where they sent incompetent children to be forgotten. Late at night, the boy sat on his bed, clutching his crumpled paper. His room, decorated with trophies his father had bought rather than earned, felt heavy. He stared at the F as if it were carved into him. He whispered, without anger, without defiance, just exhausted. Maybe I really am broken. And yet, in the silence of the mansion, something was about to change. The next morning, a new housekeeper was scheduled to arrive. She would cross the threshold with a simple worn bag, and a story she rarely revealed. She didn't know it yet, but she would soon face the same pain she had carried as a child. The boy had no idea, but the first glimmer of hope was already on its way, through the polished walls of the mansion. The morning of her arrival, the mansion staff barely noticed her. Isabella Martinez, 32 years old, dark skin, curly hair tied under a simple scarf, entered through the service entrance, a worn leather bag over her shoulder. Her shoes were scuffed, her uniform ordinary. To the other staff she seemed like just another replacement, someone who would come and go within a month. As she unpacked her cleaning supplies in the staff room, 2 cooks whispered between the clatter of pots. "That's the new one, huh? She won't last long. The boy scares people away faster than sour milk." They laughed softly, shaking their heads. Isabella didn't respond. She had learned long ago that those who talk the loudest often see the least. She simply arranged her things carefully, her hands moving with the discipline of someone who had been raised to respect every task, no matter how small. In the late afternoon, as she dusted near the study, she heard a sound, an eraser scraping furiously against paper, followed by a groan. She glanced through the half-open door. There he was, the boy, shoulders tense, blonde hair falling forward. He was trying again and again to copy a single line from his textbook. Each time he pressed harder. Each time he ended with another angry scratch-out. The paper was torn at the edges. His small fist was red from gripping the pencil too hard. Isabella froze in the doorway, her chest tightened. She had seen that look before, those wide eyes begging the page to make sense, frustration turning into shame. It was her own childhood. She saw herself again, sitting on an old cracked kitchen chair, while her mother traced letters in the air, saying softly, "It doesn't hate you, honey. It just looks different to you. We'll tame them together." The memory stung. Her mother had been gone for years, but the lesson had never disappeared. She entered the room quietly. The boy didn't notice her at first. When he finally looked up, his face was closed, ready for another reproach. Instead, she smiled gently. "You're holding that pencil like a sword," she said. "No wonder the paper's fighting back." The boy blinked, confused. No adult had ever spoken to him like that. Isabella didn't insist. She simply picked up a fallen sheet, smoothed it, and placed it gently on the desk. Then she resumed her dusting, humming softly. The boy watched her leave, his frown transforming into something else, curiosity. That evening, in the kitchen, the whispers resumed. "Did you see her in the study, acting like she knows better than the tutors? She'll end up like the others. Just wait." Isabella heard every word, but she didn't flinch. She wasn't there to impress the staff, or even the billionaire who signed her paycheck. She was there because life had taught her patience, and patience was all she had to offer. What she didn't know was that the boy had carried her words upstairs like a secret treasure. Lying in his bed, he replayed her voice. No wonder the paper's fighting back. It was the first time someone hadn't blamed him. The first time in months he fell asleep without the weight of failure crushing him. It all began slowly. One evening, Isabella found the boy still in the study, his head buried in his arms, the lamp casting tired shadows on his face. He didn't see her at first. His pencil rolled off the desk and fell to the floor. She bent down, picked it up, placed it in front of him. "Have you ever tried listening to words instead of fighting them?" she asked gently. The boy frowned, listening. She pulled a chair next to him. Without asking permission, she took the book and followed a line with her finger. She read it aloud, slowly, not quickly, not dryly like the tutors, but as if she were letting the words breathe. Then she had him repeat it. At first the letters jumbled, reversed. His cheeks flushed. He pushed the book away. "See, I can't do it." "I'm broken." Isabella leaned back, her voice calm. "You're not broken. You just see the world at a different pace. My mother told me the same thing. It took me years to believe her. But she was right." The boy looked at her, amazed. No one had ever admitted to knowing what it felt like. So she tried again. This time, instead of words, she drew shapes in the air. She let him trace letters with his finger on the table, then whispered the sounds. Instead of rushing him to spell, she broke everything into small parts, like her mother once had. And then it happened. He managed to read an entire sentence without stopping. His mouth hung open, then slowly transformed into a smile. "I did it," he whispered. Isabella smiled, clapped softly, then tapped the page. "See, the words don't hate you. You just needed them to slow down long enough for you to understand them." That night he took the book upstairs and reread the same sentence under the covers. For once the words didn't fight against him. Days became weeks. Every afternoon when the mansion grew quiet, Isabella slipped into the study. He practiced tracing letters in chalk on the blackboard, pronouncing them slowly. Some days were harder than others, tears, crumpled paper, fists hitting the table, but she never rushed him, never scolded him. In the pantry, rumors swelled. "Did you hear? She's teaching him now, a housekeeper teaching a billionaire's son. That's bold, isn't it? She'll get fired if the boss finds out, you'll see." And yet, when the boy passed her in the hallways, he lit up. He began waiting for her, his pencil sharpened, ready for their next session. His handwriting became steadier, his gaze sharper. One morning, when the father burst into the study with a new pile of results, he stopped short. Instead of crumpled paper, he found his son bent over a notebook. Reading each line carefully aloud, Isabella by his side, the billionaire frowned. But he said nothing, simply placed the papers on the desk and left. But the boy didn't flinch. For the first time, he felt that maybe, yes, maybe, he was winning. And Isabella, she knew this was just the beginning. The day of the test arrived quietly. No tutor in an immaculate suit, no expensive expert armed with his notepad. Just a boy, a sharpened pencil, and the lessons whispered by a woman the world would never have thought important. He sat at his desk in the study room. His shoulders for once stayed straight. Isabella remained in the doorway, not too close, not too far, simply there, as her mother had been for her once. She didn't correct anything, didn't whisper any answers. She only gave him that nod, the one that meant, "You can do this." When the paper was finished, he carried it himself to his father's office. His hands trembled, but his head was held higher than it had been in years. The billionaire looked up from his mountain of contracts, irritated by the interruption. He took the paper without interest, then his eyes caught the grade at the top. His eyebrows furrowed. He turned the paper over, examined each line. An A, not a pity grade, not an adjusted scale, a clear, undeniable A. For a moment the man remained frozen, as if the sheet had betrayed him. The boy waited in silence, watching for the usual sigh of disappointment. But it didn't come. Instead, the father looked up sharply. "How?" The boy didn't answer. He only turned his gaze toward the doorway where Isabella stood, still holding her cleaning cloth. The father followed that gaze, and for the first time he really saw her, not as an employee, not as a name on the payroll, but as the person who had accomplished what money never could. The billionaire leaned back in his chair, the paper still trembling in his fingers. Silence filled the office, broken only by the boy's quiet but steady breathing. The news spread quickly through the mansion. In the kitchen, voices whispered, "Did you hear? The boy got the highest grade. Impossible. She did it? She accomplished what all those luxury experts couldn't? Incredible." Isabella didn't celebrate. She simply returned to her silverware, her face calm, but her chest swelling with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. Pride, the pride that her mother's lessons still lived on. That evening the father summoned her to the office. She went, expecting a reprimand for daring to teach his son without permission, but instead he placed the paper between them. "You saved him," he said, his voice low, almost reluctant. "Ask for your raise, and starting today, you won't be scrubbing floors anymore. You'll be his tutor." Isabella's throat tightened. She simply nodded, calmly, but when she left the room, her eyes burned. Weeks became months. The boy's grades continued to climb. At school, the teachers whispered, amazed. "It's the same student, the one who was failing everything. He's brilliant, he just needed someone to meet him where he was." At home, the mansion seemed to change. Laughter echoed through the hallways, where once only dry footsteps and disappointment had sounded. The boy no longer hid his papers under his bed. He proudly displayed them on the refrigerator, even the ones that weren't perfect, because now he knew that progress mattered more than perfection. And the billionaire learned something that wealth had never taught him. Genius doesn't grow under pressure. It blooms under patience. Isabella stayed by the boy's side, no longer as an employee, but as a guide. She wasn't just the one who had taught him to read. She was proof that even people the world ignores carry miracles within them, because sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to give up to remind you that you were never broken. If this story touched you, remember, the greatest power isn't money or status, but patience and compassion. Share in the comments. Did someone believe in you when no one else did? Subscribe now to Stories That Matter, because tomorrow I'll tell you another story that will stay with you long after it ends.